Thank you very much for staying on and welcome back to the Marketplace. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has urged Ghanaians to improve upon their attitude to work in both the public and private sectors to enhance productivity and build a stronger economy. The Vice President will cut the sort for the commencement of a $42 million Western Corridor fiber optic project at Takoradi in the Western region.
Western Corridor Fiber Optic Project is being undertaken by Spectrum Fiber Company Limited, a wholly Ghanaian-owned special-purpose vehicle set up to execute the project. The project involves the development, finance, construction and operation of an ultra-modern backhaul and broadband communication infrastructure. It involves the laying of about 881 kilometers inland fiber optic cables for an extensive broadband network along the Western Corridor, passing through some major towns including Takoradi, Etiabo, Elubo, Enchi, Awaso and Bibiani. It will also connect some major towns in the Brongahafo and Ashanti regions. The fiber optic project is expected to create 12,000 direct and indirect jobs during the construction phase in 18 months. The Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, said the digitization of the country relies on appropriate fiber optic infrastructure.
We have come to the realization that our best pathway is to formalize the economy through digitization. And if we can leverage on communication and information technology, the economic and social benefits of enhanced ICT infrastructure needs no explanation. Whether we are talking about a national ID system, digital address system, land title and land administration, digitization, as well as payment system connectivity, our digitization efforts rest on the back of having the necessary fiber optic infrastructure. It is an indispensable condition if we are to make e-government and e-commerce a reality.
The board chairman of Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, Professor Christopher Meyer-Kumfi, expressed the hope that the project will make telecommunication cheaper when the project is completed.
This project, which normally is expected to come with support from foreigners, is yet another indication that here in Ghana, we can also do something. With the funds made available to the board, we have been working with the private sector in developing these projects. We hope that this project is going to make telecommunication a little cheaper.
The completion of the project will ensure local communities, governments and businesses operating within the Western Corridor of the country have access to fast, reliable and affordable broadband network services.
And still in the communication space, information technology entrepreneur Maxi Ametogbo is cautioning the National Communications Authority, NCA, to develop innovative means of licensing radio spectrum in Ghana to meet the growing digital demand for tune-in and online programs. According to him, the emergence of online radio and other news contents will make the use of terrestrial licenses irrelevant.
Terrestrial broadcasting license is an authorized permit issued to broadcasting companies before commencing operations in the country. It also serves as a guideline for radio and television broadcasting. The introduction of digital broadcasting, according to IT entrepreneur Maxi Ametogbo, has opened the floodgates for news contents to be developed online. Speaking at MTN Ghana's Digital Journalism Workshop in Accra, Maxi Ametogbo believes there is a need for the NCA to develop license for online broadcasting.
NCA, they have a Herculean task because technology is here, right? Like I said, you have a legal coverage for radio stations, so 45 kilometers radius, right, for regional radio stations. And when you think about it, technically and naturally, it doesn't make sense because all the regions in Ghana are not concentric circles. Okay, so that you go and put your station in the middle, and then you broadcast to only those regions. Now they are resorting to technology, so you can stream on TuneIn app, meaning that people who have the app can access the content. Now, time is going to come if you have more people listening to the radio okay, on their tuning app, there will not be any need to have a terrestrial license. Now, NCA should be thinking, how do we even design a local tuning app so we can put all the radio stations there, so people can be listening through that channel, so we can control, that audience. And it's going to be difficult because people want their freedom. Okay, so that's going to happen. And you may not need that terrestrial license, and maybe if the spectrums are freed, they may use it for other projects.
Manager for Value-Added Services and Mobile Advertising, MTN Ghana, Boedua Donko, has been speaking about the importance of the digital journalism program.
Digital journalism, because there's a technology revolution, there's a digital revolution. It took radio 38 years to reach 50 million people. It took TV 13 years to reach the same audience. But you'll be surprised to know that it took the internet 4 years to achieve what was achieved in that long time. And so everything is moving online, and we'll have to move with the trends and take advantage of the changes in the environment, in the ecosystem, in the digital ecosystem.
The event is part of initiatives by MTN Ghana to empower journalists and entrepreneurs in the digital space.
Now, Norwegian telecom firm Telenor has expressed interest in doing business in Ghana. This would be the second time the telecoms firm will be making a push to do business in the country. It is not clear whether Telenor will acquire a fresh license or purchase and assume an existing company. He is the director of local content at the Petroleum Commission, Kweku Boateng, briefing the media after a meeting with Norwegian investors in Norway.
20 foreign companies in a closed session individually and took them through the business processes in Ghana, the opportunity that existed. We met companies that are willing to provide training, source engineering, water integrity services, logistics, and many areas. And we made it very clear to them that before they can participate in Ghana oil and gas sector, they have to partner with Ghanaian companies. They need to incorporate a foreign branch in Ghana and work with Ghanaian companies. A lot of them have expressed interest to work with the Ghanaian partners. And most importantly, the CEO also mentioned at the part, our Deputy Minister mentioned earlier on that our partner, Eka Energy, have expressed interest to support the flagship project of the government, that is Accelerated Oil and Gas Capacity Building Project. Today, we have two Ghanaian companies, two Norwegian companies that have expressed interest to work with Petroleum Commission to implement the AOGC project. We also met with Telecom Norway, who has also expressed interest to work in Ghana. They say they have operations in Nigeria as well, and they want to extend similar service to Ghana, and are prepared to partner with the Ghanaian counterparts. We also have a session with another major Norwegian company, Tapnet, who is also want to develop offshore fiber optic network from Ghana to Nigeria through Angola to connect all the offshore installations. So the discussion will be very good, and many Ghanaian companies that you have talked to have made few contacts.
Away from telecoms now, and former Finance Minister Seth Terkper says Ghana must act more professionally when dealing with China. He was sharing his thoughts on President Akufo-Addo's recent visit to China, where he signed a number of MOUs and hinted of government floating of a $50 billion century bond.
Well, I dealt with China for a very long time, and I think a number of points are very important, maybe 2 or 3. First, you don't view China as a political communist, left government when you deal with financial matters. Institutions like CDB, Exim are very, very, very professional. And we must always remember that those institutions are on the capital markets themselves. And so they know what it means to be on the capital markets. Second, let's not forget that China is westernized to a large extent, and China has become the second largest economy in the world. So you cannot also do away with China and its influence in many respects. And by the way, China is a member of the IMF. You know it. One of the vice presidents, deputy MDs in the fund is a Chinese, and they have occupied that position. And the renminbi has just been made a convertible currency. And so I'm saying that China is emerging. So we shouldn't view China in some ideological or, when we are dealing with financial matters. We should deal with them professionally. And that means, and this is my other point, we should also build capacity. So that when you are negotiating, not just with China, with the World Bank or any of those institutions, you also negotiate professionally and from a position of strength. Or indeed, when you are going to issue bonds, as you have witnessed, you do a roadshow and you have your facts, you build institutions and you convince the markets. So I think that we should be looking at building capacity in developing, now middle income. Let's leave our middle income status, by building or strengthening our processes and our institutions.
You're still watching The Marketplace, which is coming to you live on Joy News. Let's now turn attention to some petroleum developments, and government is set to launch the country's first ever licensing bidding round for 9 oil blocks in the Western Offshore Basin in October 5. The bidding round allocation will be done in accordance with Ghana's Petroleum and Exploration Development Law Act 919. In all, 9 open acreages will be available for take. The Petroleum Commission has already begun a roadshow to attract prospective investors with the technical and financial competency to participate in the bidding round. But when do we expect the licenses to be awarded, and what is the objective behind Ghana moving away from direct negotiation model with some exploration companies? There's more in this report.
Bid round will be overseen by a 23-member committee known as the Licensing Bid Round and Negotiation Committee, drawn from the Ministry of Energy, Ghana National Petroleum Corporation (GNPC), Environmental Protection Agency, Ghana Revenue Authority, the Ministry of Finance, the Attorney General's Department, the Petroleum Commission, and the Ghana Maritime Authority. According to the timetable posted on GhanaPetroleumRegister.com, promotions to attract investors, data view, and sale of data is expected to last 3 months from September to November 2018. Expression of interest from the international oil companies, the OICs, is to be submitted by end of November this year, while pre-qualification of local partnering companies and IOCs will be done in December. Between January and February 2019, there will be evaluation and announcement of pre-qualification of applicants in line with applicable regulations and invitation to tender. The qualified companies will have 4 months within which to submit the tender, while the Licensing Bid Round and Negotiation Committee between June and August 2019 will evaluate the tender. The announcement of a successful tender is expected in mid-August 2019, which will pave way for negotiations to begin with the committee. Joy Business understands that out of the 9 oil blocks which have been mapped out, only 3 would be allocated through open competitive tender. 2 will then be given through direct negotiations, while 1 would be reserved for the national oil company, the GNPC. The GNPC is then expected to explore its block with a chosen strategic partner with a view to develop its technical capacity to become an operator. This brings us to 6 oil blocks to be given out in the first licensing round of the bidding. The other 3 are expected to be auctioned in the second round on a date yet to be fixed.
All right, so we want to get some more clarity about what exactly Ghana's Petroleum Exploration and Production Law says about oil block allocations with regards to competitive tendering processes and direct negotiations. We've been joined on the line by energy expert Ishmael Ejikumhene to give us some more information on this. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the Marketplace.
Good afternoon.
All right, now 2 out of the 9 blocks which are opened, for tendering or for sale will be done without the competitive tendering process. In other words, it will be done with direct negotiations. Now, we've in the past had problems with the fact that ExxonMobil was selected, without giving room for other competitors to also bid. What's your take on this particular direction that we are going?
Well, I think I really don't know the basis why those 2 blocks will not be open to direct competition, but the law makes provisions that in the view of the minister, they have to go into direct negotiations.
We have
the good out of 9, 7 will be open to competition. So it's only 2, and I believe there must be a very important strategic reason why they want to enter into direct negotiation. But to the extent possible, I think we need to be moving from direct negotiation as much as possible so that it should be 100% competitive bidding, because we know competition always will yield a better outcome than direct.
All right, so like the previous deal that was tendered to ExxonMobil, the 2 oil blocks that would not be, given under competitive tendering process, are said to be deep water blocks. And for that matter, government is going to select an appropriate, company with the technical know-how or competency to actually participate on this block. That is the explanation from government.
Exactly. So just like they defended the ExxonMobil deal, now we need to make sure that we get the right people to work in those fields.
All right, now, is it not the case that even with the tendering process, the competitive tendering process, at a point, it will be incumbent on the minister to make a choice? So what is the competition here?
Well, I think we fought we fought against the discretion of the minister, where even along the line, terminate the whole process and go into direct negotiation. Much as experts and all stakeholders thought that we should minimize the discretion of the minister as much as possible, still managed to find itself in law. But I think the difference is that quite a number of interested parties are going to be invited. Okay, and these are going to be done in a different manner. So the minister will need to even provide justification why he or she bypass the competitive bidding process, circumvent and go into negotiation. So what this brings to the table is that the minister would have a very strong basis bypassing the process that will be launched in a couple of weeks' time to go into direct negotiation.
All right, now the Norwegians are finally here. We've touted the Norwegian model even before the onset of oil and gas exploration in the country. Now, Aker Energy is coming to explore in the year 2021. What new thing do you think that they bring to the table?
Massive. I think wherever you find some of these big players, send the right signals to them. And given their history, transparency, and accountability, you would expect that when we deal with, at least Ghanaians could be fairly, comfortable when dealing with players. I think it's a right sense of the market that our industry, the oil industry, is finally maturing, all these big players interested to participate.
All right, now finally, before you go, the LNG deal, which has been signed by the president for the construction of pipelines for gas, export. What do you think about this particular development?
We've always, since 2010, we've talked about the need for us to have. We should diversify our LNG sources. So I know the construction of LNG has always been on the card. What is happening now is that very soon one of the projects are going to materialize. So it's positive in the sense that we would have the option of bringing in gas, so that even if we're not from Nigeria and for any reason the FPS, we should be able to have gas to run. The only caution is that we need to make sure that all these LNG plants are not going to come in at and we are also increasing our indigenous gas resources. So we need to go strictly according to the gas master plan to make there is sufficient demand. Because if you go and lock yourself into long-term contracts, this one I understand can be problems. So what it means is that even if you have more indigenous gas resources,
all right,
you would have signed up some of this. So I think it's good for the industry. We need to build the first LNG plant, but let's keep the bigger picture.
Many thanks for your time. Ishmael Ejukumhene is energy expert. He was sharing his thoughts on this current development where Ghana is set to open up some of its blocks for sale on October 5 to replenish its oil and gas reserves. Meanwhile, the Petroleum Commission has announced plans to establish a business advisory center. The center, according to the acting CEO of the Commission, Egbert Fable Jr., would assist indigenous companies in the upstream sector to attract joint venture partners.
The board of the Petroleum Commission has in principle, stated that we need to set up a business advisory center. So, bearing any last-minute hitches, in the course of time, you will see the creation or the setting up of a business advisory center at the Petroleum Commission, where issues about pitching and what have you will be done. I think that we as a commission even have to develop a format for pitching so that we see the skits people are going to use for pitching before you come here. And then when you are given the opportunity, you do that. So if it's not pitching, then it will be the speed networking option where we all sit on a table like this and then we just shift our bumps and go and just, tell what you have.
Away from petroleum now, freight forwarders and exporters in the Bonahaf region are calling on government to develop a new non-traditional export form that could enhance accurate data collection in the export and import sector. Members of the two groups made the suggestion at a sensitization program on the need to protect and ensure transmission of accurate export data organized by Ghana Export Promotion Authority in Sunyani.
The non-traditional export forms are commonly required for entering data on non-traditional exportables. Over the year, they have largely contributed to inaccurate export data due to some defects. Akwesi Efriye is one of the freight forwarders who find a problem with how the current NTE form is designed.
The MTI forms that I was talking about, these are the forms that was created like 1970s. And currently it has 6 pages. One is the original, and then you have 5 more duplicates. And no matter how hard you try to write to appear on the duplicates end up not being properly read. You can't read it. And secondly, when a duplicate copy is kept for a little while, it starts fading. So I think it's about time for the government to come up with a new technology that we can have whereby the copies can be visible and also it can stay longer so that all these records are not lost in the system.
Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Samuel Dentu, said the authority is ready to organize frequent training programs for the freight forwarders, realizing the key role they play in export data collection.
It is very important for us to make sure that we get the data that are gathered rightly, and that is the essence of this sensitization program. Again, many institutions, both private and public, depend on the export data that are churned out by us, freight forwarders, with the help of the customs. Especially the Bank of Ghana, like the commander intimated, depends so much on the export data that we help to churn out for policy planning and directions.
A vice president of the International Federation of Freight Forwarders Association, David Nutako, challenged freight forwarders to be diligent in gathering accurate export data for planning and policy formulation.
At the borders, you rush, and the moment the truck crosses the border, the freight forwarder, you go and speak, am I lying? No, let's accept it, and yes, that's why we are here. Is it not correct? You rode the truck crosses at one border, then I finished my work. saying no from today. After that, go back to your office and complete your documentation genuinely and properly, accurately. And they should be readable, it should be legible for all the parties, the stakeholders who will distribute these forms to. There are 6 copies. One goes to somebody, one goes to the one who is to help the government formulate export policies to help you, the exporters, to do more business so far. Once you cannot read what we have put on the document.
It's been 30 minutes of business on the marketplace today. That's it. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Have a good afternoon.